What's up, dedicated Dragon Ball denizens? I'm Brian, and we are here for another episode of the Hawks Dragon Ball Nest. Excited to get into today's deck, my Vegito deck. I've been working so hard to get this deck working. I think I'm in a pretty decent spot. It's a little bit of a balance control style Vegito that we have here. So we're going to get into each card in the deck first, well, why I'm including it, what it does. Then we'll go into the strategy, strengths, and weaknesses of our Vegito deck. And then finally we'll get into some other cards to consider swapping into the deck. Now, make sure you tune in to our next episode, which will drop later this week. That way we're going to see it in action. So this one is going to be the overview of it. So let's get into it. All right, and we have the deck up right here. I've shortened a couple of the names on the left, Savior of the World and Unrivaled Fusion Father, just to get this fitting without the text being extremely small. Still a little bit small, but anyway, let's go in there. So let's look at the front side of the Vegito leader first. Pretty basic leader. When attacking, draw a card at 15k, right? At least on his side. Now then, the Awakening. One thing I don't like about this card is that when Awakened, you just flip him over. You don't get a draw, but then you are going to mill the top 10 cards of your deck, right? So you're basically, when your life is at 4 or less, place the top 10 into the drop and then flip this card over. And then we have him on this side. Now, he's a 20k leader. He does draw upon attack. And interestingly enough, if you have 20 or more cards in your drop, he gets 20k power. So he is really strong. It's going to take more than a super combo if you are going lead to lead. And he can just be a big body to knock out, or at least go for a knockout against the cards on your opponent's board. Right, so he's really good in that regards. Just know that you do need 20 in drop, which you do get half of that from the Awaken, but if you're going a little bit too quickly, then you're going to not have 10 in drop before the Awaken. He's not going to get that 40. So really, ideally, you want to try to be defending your life until you get to that 10 in drop and then Awaken upon that. You can do it a little bit earlier if you're really getting pushed, because obviously you get an extra 5k power. But I really try to just go ahead and defend, because defending obviously helps you get cards in drop with the ones you defended with, right? Alright, so let's get into some of the battle cards. Right, now, first off, I'm going to be running 4 of these Pans. I really like this one early game. It's kind of a neutral card in many ways. Draw 2 and then discard 2. But the good thing is it's obviously you're getting a couple in drop, and then you are able to choose which 2 they are. So rather than just milling 2, you're able to draw 2, and then you get to choose from your hand which of the ones are going to go, so that you can kind of cycle through your deck. It helps you a little bit get what you need in hand, and also while getting those cards in drop, right? Alright, now I'm going to be honest, I really tried. I really wanted to do this deck without Pilaf, and I initially tried and was not successful. So Pilaf, we're going to run 4 of these bad boys in there. Why not? It really helps. Obviously, you're able to do it. And there's another big reason too, not only just to grab himself, but really the other thing you're going to be grabbing are the Savior of the World, because it is an Earthling 0 drop card, and you can get 1 or less. Right? So that actually makes this really good, and you really need it because of the mills. Like, you're going to get some super combos milled, and you're going to get some saviors milled. So those kind of act as like kind of Dollar Tree super combos are what the Savior of the World does, right? Okay, now next up is just our Trunks. Now there's a specific reason I chose this as our cantrip, which we'll talk about in a bit. Right, but Trunks, obviously, as the basic cantrip, is going to draw 1 card. You do want to put Trunks in there, because then we have Goten as our next one. Number 1 is obviously draw power. If we have 7 or less, we draw a card. He's a 10k power, and he's also 15k attack. Honestly, I kind of want to be pushing my opponents early with this card, and also kind of defending my life. So I'm going to be attacking with him on average when I put him in, because you're playing him early game when your opponent's leaders are still at 15k, so you can attack. It also makes them not attack you, so it gives you a little bit of time to play defense. This is a deck where I'm playing defense in here, right? Okay, now let's skip ahead a little bit to why I have these 2. This is another card that really helps us out, is our Gotenks, the old tanks. right? Place this card into your drop. If you have 10 or more, you get to play a Goten and a Trunks with cost of 2 or less from your drop in rest mode. So that's why I make sure that the cantrip is our Trunks, because what this is going to do is help get our hand size back up if we need to. He's obviously still a 20k attacker. Sometimes I find myself just kind of putting him inactive and not attacking with him because I don't quite have the 10 yet, but it does give you those options out there to at least have an attacker, get a body on the board, and then helps you to redraw, and then they're going to have to deal with those two. So if you've seen any of my videos, my Vegeta, my blue Vegeta, or even my Zamasu decks, they have this, and I went back and forth. I removed it and then re-added because I just think it works if you want to play a little bit more defensively rather than an aggro version of this deck. All right, okay, moving back up, here are our new cards. Let's actually look at I do have one of the alts here, so let's look at the Vegeta here. Pretty interesting card here, right? So on play, you get to add a blue with a cost of 3. Has to be exactly 3 from your drop to your hand. And then activate battle. You switch this card to rest mode. If you have 20 or more cards in your drop, your Son Goku with a cost of 3 gets 30k power. So that's basically kind of another pairing that we have in here. For our first pairing was our Gotenks combo, and then this one brings us over to our Goku and Vegeta combo, right? So we'll skip over here, actually, yet again, let's look at our alt. So here's our Goku. So that Vegeta is going to be paired with this Goku as a 3 cost. He can get this Goku from the drop, as well as other cards too, right? So on play, we can add a card from our life to our hand. So he is our Self-Awakener and one of our only Self-Awakeners in the deck. Actually, I think he might be the only. And then what I really like him for is I'm actually going to play him early because it placed the top 5 cards of my deck into my drop. So that's a really good one early on to just make sure that we get there. That's already half of what we need in order to awaken. If we played Pan turn 1, then we're pretty much there. We just need a few defenses. Now, really, he's great late game. Because of this ability, right? If you have 20 or more cards in your drop during this turn, the next time you use an extra with the cost of 3 or less, you don't have to pay the cost. So, like, wow, that's really good. So let's look at the extra that we're going to play, right? Which is See You. So this one, obviously, as we see, is a 3 cost. So if you have 20 or more cards in your drop, choose up to 1 Goku with a cost of 3, and it gains double strike. And now this is the other great part about this, then choose up to 1 battle card in your opponent's battle area, placed at the bottom of their deck. So this is a great removal card and pressure card. So sometimes you're actually not even going to utilize the double strike. A lot of times I may just want to help clear my board, and then I'm going to use See You, give Goku double strike, but really bottom deck, and then I may not even attack leader with him. Ideally, you obviously want to save it for when you can, but, you know, that's how things go sometimes, right? So that's kind of the pairing there. So we've kind of got a good amount of cards that are just looking at that. And luckily, this is a 60 card deck, so we do have room for all of this stuff. Okay, and next up, let's come back up here. So we are going to move out of our 3 and less cost, and we're going to look at Gotenks. Now, the Gotenks is the one in this deck that you can either choose Gotenks or you can choose the Gohan Adolescence. I prefer the Gotenks for a few reasons, right? Number one, if you have 10 or more in drop, he gets 5k power. So he's a little bit stronger. To me, the difference between 30k and 35k is huge in battles. It's really a lot of the times the difference between your opponent being able to defend or take the KO on a card. Less so in life, but in that, right? And the other thing I like about this is the on-play 2 cards into your drop. I do find myself when I'm sitting there on turn 4, these are usually the difference in terms of, so a lot of times I'm able to throw those last 2 into drop. He's going to get 35k, and then I can awaken at that point as well if I need to. And then now my Vegito has that. So I really like that about this card. And then you do get to bottom deck a 3 or less cost. So the benefits of running the Gohan over this is obviously he does 2 that are 4 or less, right? So this one's got a lot more limitations. He's not going to help you as much with the bottom deck and the removal, but At this point, I'm probably going to start playing a little bit more aggro once we hit that turn 4 and 5. 1 through 3, you're playing defense, you're trying to build up your hand. Now we want to get rid of cards, and you know what? Here we are. So it's debatable. I'm still on the fence. In an ideal world, I may try to figure out a way to actually include 2 and 2, whereas right now I have 3 of these, right? So you could perhaps remove one of your Vegetas, even one of the Gotenks, something like that. My issue is the combo power, so that's what kind of makes me keep that. Okay, then next up is this Vegito. He's kind of a niche play, but you know, he does have the 10k combo, so I'm keeping him in there. Right, activate main for 2 energy. You're going to discard a card from your hand, place this card into drop, and then if you have 10 or more in drop, you can play a Vegito with the cost of 5 or 6 from the drop. What's good about this is you're a lot of times going to find yourself milling those cards, right? They're going to get milled out, so you can kind of play him. Many times you're not going to be able to do it same turn, but what's kind of cool is maybe he's your only 4 drop. You just throw him out there, let him sit, hope that your opponent doesn't get rid of him the turn after, and then use those 2 energy to play him from drop, and you've still got some more going. My issue with him, I really wish he was 20k. I think this card would be a lot better because then you could attack. It would help him not to get knocked out. Like if you're going against a red deck, they're just going to be able to destroy him with Gohan alone. So that kind of sucks. A lot of times I do notice when I'm playing him, like he doesn't even survive the turn. They're figuring out ways to remove him so that I'm not able to play him. So this is another one to consider, like, is this the best one for this deck? I don't know. I don't have anything better. And again, he has that 10k combo. So at the very least, I'm using him. A lot of times he's my first choice to combo away. Alright, then let's get into more Vegitos. This card. Now, honestly, I didn't think that this card would be that great. I put in 2 just kind of situationally if I'm playing against decks that are just really going hard on aggroing, like with these 3 or less, like a Ginyu deck. But I've actually found that this has been a better card than I've expected him to be. On play, we're going to choose a battle card with 4 or less and return it to their owner's hand. I don't like returning to hand a lot, but with this deck that doesn't have a ton of ways to deal with wide boards, it helps them at least have to waste energy to throw that out there. And if I could get a 4 cost to hand, that's not bad, right? And then when attacking, as long as you have 20 or more cards in your drop, your opponent can't attack using battle cards with 3 or less next turn. So it does help. Again, as I mentioned, what I'm seeing so far when I'm playing this deck is wide boards are an issue, and a lot of times a wide board is having 3 or less. So this really does help me, and then they're going to focus in on taking this guy out. So you're either going to have to decide if you want to defend or not. If not, hey, that's life. But if so, you at least get 1 turn without 3 or less as attacking, and you return to 4 or less to hand. Alright, then as we continue through, most of the rest of this cards are Vegito in this deck. We have our 5 cost. So I'm actually in here online. I'm playing with 4. I'd prefer to play 3, and then I would go with I'd actually want 3 of each. So 3 of these, and then 3 of these. I only have 2 online, so I'm going 2 and 4. But I think I would prefer if I went 3 and 3 for each, but it's up to you on that. You may even go fewer than this. A lot of the lists I'm seeing are 2 and 2, but I do like it because I'm kind of really focused in on getting them out late game, especially, right? Obviously on play, if we're going to be able to return a 5 or less to hand. It can actually work pretty hilariously when you're in mirror matches and the 2 of you are just returning their Vegitos to hand every turn. So that's funny. And then activate main once per turn. If you have 7 or fewer in hand, switch to active mode. This one's a little bit tricky for me too, and it's why I would prefer to have 3 of the other, because sometimes, because this deck is so defensive, like I don't always have 7 or fewer in my hand, and it can really mess me up a little bit because of that. So that's why I like just having 3 and 3, but obviously a great card in that. And let's look at this one too. Having 0 doesn't lose us the game, and if we have 0, he gets 10k, so he'd go up to a 50. and then we're able to switch to active mode, choose a card in your opponent's battle area, switch to hand any card, and then place the top 5 into drop. So this guy's a really big body, and what I really want to do here is use this card. All right, Unrivaled Fusion Father. Choose one Vegito with the cost of 4 or more, and it gets 10k for the turn. If you have 20 cards, it gets 10 more k. So that means we can get some pretty crazy moves out here because those Vegitos are re-standards, right? So it gets it for the turn. So if you're able to get this bad boy out, obviously this guy becomes a 50. If you're crazy enough to get to like the end of the game, if you're able to get a Vegito out there with 7 charge and get to 0 and drop, and your opponent has 2 life left, like they might as well just end it. This is going to be at 50 plus, it's going to be at 70k. If you can get 2 70k hits out there when our deck is 0, then that's done. Obviously it's going to be really hard to get them down to 2, but I mean, think about this. If you could get them down to 3, and then we can work on getting our Vegito lead to get them down to 2. I don't think there's unlikely to be their ability to defend against 2 70k hits, right? So that's what I really want to do. Like, this is the ideal finisher move, which is why it'd be nice if I found a third of these. Is just like defend, defend, defend. If you can get this guy out and just end the game that way, just slowly chipping away at them. So that's really what I want to do here, but easier said than done. I do have 3 Zen-Ohs in here. I think it's really important, especially because, as I keep mentioning, this is going to struggle against wide boards. So Zen-Oh is a card that you're going to play, clear their board, and just kind of clears the way for you to start getting and focusing on your Vegitos. You know, early on, we're going to be defending. We don't always have a lot of attackers out there. Really, like our Gotenks at a 4 cost is our first like real good attacker. You do have your Goku, but he's only going to be a 25k. So there's kind of that until you're kind of using your Vegetas with him. But even that is a lot of cost. I mean, we're talking about 5 cost if you want to play Goku and Vegeta together, right? So this is a good one to help. Super combos. Throw in whoever you want. I have a crazy idea of just not playing super combos in this deck. Haven't actually tried it because they get milled so many times. I had a match where I played, I milled 5 with Goku. 3 of them were super combos in a row. Like, what's going on? So we've got that. Okay, Savior of the World. You gotta play 4 in this deck. I think it's a necessity to go 4 Pilafs and 4 Savior of the World. A lot of times when you've got some extra, you're going to Pilaf loop until you get the last Pilaf down, and then that last one you want to get Savior of the World back. It's gonna do, as long as you have 20 or more, 15k for the battle. Not good. I mean, not good for your opponent. Strategy, strengths, and weaknesses of this deck. Early on, you're going to want to be playing defense as much as possible as we build up our drop so that we're not awakening too quickly, right? So you play defense, get some draws out there. Turn 1, ideally, it'd be nice to either get a Trunks or a Pan. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. Turn 2, we want to get a Goten out there if possible so that we can get some draw. And then turn 3 would be nice to get our Goku out there in mill 5 so that we're either ready or almost ready to go. And then maybe turn 4 to get a Gotenks out there. That's hopefully going to be our final couple cards in order to get to 10. And whether or not we're ready for Awakening, we've at least got a 35k body on the board to start pressuring our opponents. Right, mid games is usually between that 4 and 6 charges. Keep the board clear. We don't want our opponents building it up too much. Hopefully your Gotenks is able to bottom deck a 3, and then if they've got something else out there that you want to take care of, hopefully they've attacked with it, and then we can go from there and keep that board clear. And then late game, just start punishing. You know, kind of thinking about getting as much attackers out there as possible, and these guys are going to be hitting hard, and you know, go from there. Try your best. We're going to be balancing draw and drop, right? Do you want to focus on drawing, or do we want to focus on drop? You know, also keeping in mind the facts of, like, if you're playing your Vegeta and picking out of drop, then that's going to be 1 less card. Same thing goes if we're doing our Gotenks. If we're gonna you know, go ahead and KO him to get 2 from drop. It is a net -1, but it is something to think about, that you could perhaps get yourself out of your zone that you need for Vegito to be hitting for 20 and for 20k more, and using specific extra cards or effects of our battle cards as well. Strengths, this I really tried to get an all-around build for this deck. So that it's not weak against anything. I really wanted to focus on this not being a glass cannon of a deck, but at the same time, I did want it to hit hard. So I've really focused on building it this way. I don't think I've really faced any like terrible matchups with this deck. I mean, I've had some wins, I've had some losses. The wins like look really cool sometimes, and the losses, you know, a lot of times they're still like misplaced for me, just kind of getting used to like, what do I prioritize, right? It does have a lot of draw power in this deck, whether it's from Gotenks or just in general drawing from there, able to get stuff with our Vegeta back from drop and things like that, and it just really starts to hit hard mid to late when we've got that Gotenks out there with 35, and then our Vegitos, our Gokus that can get powered up to a double strike and get powered up by 30k from our Vegetas. Very hard hitting deck, right? Weaknesses though, it does have a lot going on. You know, there's a lot in this deck. You know, some would say that it would be better to just focus on one thing, maybe going from there. And I did try to do that. I've had a few builds where I do focus more or less on one thing. Like I went through a phase of just removing the new cards completely. I went through phases of focusing on those, removing the Gotenks package, and I ended up kind of settling on what I think is a good balance. And you know, we're able to defend, and we're able to just get our opponents going all in later in the game, right? It does struggle still against wide board, so one of the biggest things to note there, so that should be your focus, is keeping that board eliminated as much as possible, while at the same time making sure that you're chipping down on those cards in hand in life. At some point, as long as you're getting cards in hand down, even if their life is getting low, like we're going to be hitting for so many huge hits in the game that it's going to be tough for them to defend, right? Another weakness is there's not a lot of self-awakening. So if our opponent does get to the point where they're only hitting your board and like not attacking your leader at all, it can be an issue to get yourself awakened. And other cards to consider, I have a lot here. I've played with this deck a lot. Now this is probably one of the most common cards you're going to see in the Vegito deck. It was really hard for me to remove him, but I just felt like I had to. This is one, if you're not going to play the Gotenks package, definitely throw him in there. He's a self-awakener. The thing I don't like about him is that he's forced awakening. So this is a card you're not going to be able to play late game. He's just going to turn into either charge fodder or combo power, but you are going to be able to place the top 3 into your drop. But again, you know, I don't find that I have too much of an issue with that, so I'm not going to do that, right? Vegito 2 cost, another card that was tough for me to remove because it does have the 10k power, but it's one that, like, I feel like if this was a 20k attacker, it would be better. But it's not great to play this card and then you just KO it, because you're rarely, like, you're not going to be attacking with him, right? You need 20 or more cards in drop, and then you can get a Goku and Vegeta from drop to hand. I think maybe if you're really focused in on that Vegeta Goku package, he would be better. But in this deck, just didn't fit here, right? Now, this one was one, when I first put this card in, I just thought I had, like, the most diabolical list ever at this point. It'd be nice to fit him back in again, because it is such a good card, helping you get from drop what you need. But I just, with all the Vegitos that I want to play here, and focusing on the Unrivaled Fusion Father, it just made the deck way too top heavy. I was not able to play what I needed early, because I was just stuck with all these high cost cards. So if you did want to do something like this same list, and maybe go like a set of like 2-2-2 between Vegeta, the 2 5 and 6 cost Vegitos and a Goku Black, it's an option. But at the same time, if you're only playing 2, you know, you are risking just having both of them milled away. So that's why I'm really avoiding as much as possible to have just 2 copies of a card, because they're gonna get milled and you're gonna be sad. Okay, now next up we have this Zamasu. Now this one is one that, you know, I think it's an underrated card. I think it's one that you're probably going to see in a lot of these lists if you already haven't. Is, you know, just choosing up to one of your battle cards with one or less and throwing it, bottom decking it. Boom, like see ya. It's a 10k combo. It's a 1-cost card. Pretty good card. I just couldn't find a place for it. This Bulma is another one that I played with inserting in the deck. What I like about this one is its activate main, right? If you have 7 or fewer during this turn, the next time you use an extra from your hand, reduce the cost by 1, right? 1 blue. And to me, like, that's really good. If you can just have her kind of hang out on board and not get removed, it means that you can use our Unrivaled Fusion Father a turn early. Because that's what I find a lot of times is, like, I'm at 5, I'm dropping my 5-cost Vegito, but I can't power him up yet. So this kind of makes you able to do that, and it makes you able to do it every turn. However, again, it's a 5k power, very easy to remove. So I ended up just removing her. I actually didn't even find an opportunity to use her once in like maybe 6 or 7 matches. Right. Alright, and then we have our Vegito 3-cost. Another one that I've experimented throwing in the deck. Does help me out a lot, but just like not enough. He's one that for sure, if you want to get rid of that Gotenks thing, that you like, a good replacement for that would be to replace the 4-cost Gotenks with 4 of these probably, and then replace our 2-cost Goten. Just go ahead and throw in 4 of these Zamasus, and you know, now you've got yourself some bottom decking happening. This Gohan, I talked about that in terms of our Gotenks. You know, that's one, like, do you want Adolescents or do you want Gotenks? I went with the Gotenks, kind of a personal preference, but yeah, it's really good for the, actually I think I said 4 or less, but it's 3 or less at bottom deck. Gallic Gun, just a really good card in general. I mean, it helps us draw, gives us 15. Again, just one I couldn't figure out. Now, the Sickle is one that would really be nice in this deck as well, because when we're playing that Goku with 20 or less, or 20 or more in drop, you're able to use an extra with a cost of 3 or less for 3, including the Sinister Sickle, right? And this is just going to let us bottom deck 2 in any order. I mean, this one, I really think we should find a way to get it in, and by we I mean me. So I may think about how to do that before playing, but in our next video, but hey, that's what we got here. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of the Hawks Dragon Ball Nest. I am Ryan, and I had a lot of fun with us today showing this deck. Can't wait to get into it next time. We'll see if there are any slight changes to the deck, but I think we should be pretty much where we're at, except maybe finding a way to incorporate Sickle. If you liked what you saw, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are still just a couple subs away from hitting that milestone of 50. I would love to be able to hit that milestone, so please please hit that subscribe so that I can continue to make this awesome content for you all. If you're not quite ready to fly it, though, just hit that like button. You know, we'll show up in an algorithm near you soon. I did want to mention one thing here too. We have our regionals that are going to start coming up for Fusion World for this year, right? And I have a background in performance psychology. That is my specialty. That's where I've got my master's. So I will be dropping for at least the next 4 weeks, every Sunday, one extra video, which is going to be pretty short and to the point video where I go through a specific mental skill that is evidence-based in performance psychology that is going to be able to help you kill it in your regionals. So our first one is going to be dropping this Sunday. It'll be on creating a pre-performance routine, and we'll drop some more as we go throughout. So make sure you check those out. If you like them, let me know. If you want to see more, I can at some point even do some more long form of those similar to these videos. But for now, just a little quick previews of mental skills training. But anyway, that's about all the time we've got. So until next time, we'll see you next time.